Appropriations, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. And Mr. Attorney General, it is wonderful to see you, and I thank you for your testimony today. As you know, far too many families and communities across the nation face really very heartbreaking tragedies and a needless loss of life, which is caused by this epidemic of gun violence and the lack of gun safety safeguards. So I want to say a thank you to you for the focus you brought to the issue, as well as the priorities that are outlined in this year's request, including the $1 billion for DOJ's gun violence prevention efforts. This is a personal issue for me and the district that I represent. In 2018, Ethan Song, a 15-year-old teenager from Guilford, Connecticut, had his life cut short after being shot with an unsecured gun. Ethan's story is tragic, but sadly has become a common reality for too many families. I have legislation, and it's legislation that is passed in the Connecticut State Legislature. Ethan's Law is called Ethan's Law. It's supported by more than 200 of my House colleagues, and it is to set federal standards for safe gun storage. I'm hoping that the House will soon take it up and pass it, which is much needed legislation. But while we pursue this congressional action, the efforts taken by your administration in the meantime are critically important. Can you explain your current work, how the resources included in this request will help curb the epidemic of gun violence, protect children and communities across the nation? And without the Congress at the moment, how does this Ethan's Law, this kind of legislation, fit into the administration's agenda?
Well, we are asking for $20.2 billion, which is a 8.2% increase for law enforcement and U.S. attorneys' offices to fight violent crime and gun violence. This includes an increase in 757 assistant U.S. attorneys to put federal statutory penalties on gun violence and to investigate, to run the kinds of task forces of state, federal, and local law enforcement necessary to most effectively do this. We've asked for a $605 million increase for the FBI to fight a number of areas, which includes $20.6 million for violent crime and $6.2 million for expanded NICS background checks. We have in our request $173 billion, which is a $201 million increase for ATF, to expand the number of agents so that we can expand our gun trafficking strike forces. Last year, we introduced 5 gun trafficking task forces to interdict the pipeline of guns that go north and south on the east and the west coast, and through the center of the country, focused on Chicago. This would allow us to expand those. It would also improve the National Tracing Center and the NIBIN Center that ATF runs. And then we've asked for quite a lot of money, an additional $5.48 billion for grants to state and local communities and law enforcement to prevent gun and violence and to enforce those laws.
In the context of what you were just talking about, of grants, et cetera, what Ethan's Law essentially says is that individuals have to secure their guns. They can secure it with ammunition, but the weapon has to be secured. It is a public health issue. This is not, we're not trying to take anyone's guns away from them. We're not, it is very simply store the weapon and the ammunition in a safe place. And so that it's not accessible to kids, because we're seeing increased number of kids who are dying, through an accidentally. And just the concept of this, as I say, it's passed the state legislature in Connecticut, bipartisan support, overwhelming bipartisan support. So again, it is about gun storage. Does that fit into your agenda with regard to the gun safety safeguards and the $1 billion in the gun violence prevention effort? Is this something that would fit into your structure?
So I have to consult our experts as to whether the existing grant programs cover that. They may, I just don't know.
Okay.
As you no doubt know, we did have model red flag laws that we put out with help with respect to grants for state legislatures that were interested in that. It might be the similar program, but I don't know. But I will ask our technical staff to speak with your staff.
Okay, I much appreciate it. I much appreciate the initiative on gun violence prevention, and it is overwhelming. And as I say, the issue that I'm speaking about is purely and simply a public health issue. It doesn't remove anyone's guns. It doesn't. The restriction is to make it safe, get it into a safe storage place. So thank you very, very much, and Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, thank you for the opportunity to speak at the hearing today. Appreciate it. Yield back.